Hey everybody, JCB here at The Awesomeness, and you're watching The Awesomeness YouTube channel. Where are we going, babe?
Horror Nights.
Halloween Horror Nights! So we're here at Universal Studios Halloween Horror Nights to try out the R.I.P. tour. We're gonna do a little review on it. On October 1st, my wife and I went to Universal Studios Hollywood Horror Nights to check out the R.I.P. tour. Hollywood Horror Nights is one of the things that Universal Studios does really right. I'm not a big fan of the park in general. I like the studio tour, but once you've done it a few times, until they add something new, you're kind of set. As for the rides, aside from a few standouts, I hope you like looking at screens. One of the only downsides of going to Horror Nights is just the lines. Every house takes about 2 hours of waiting in line just to get into. And since the whole event is only 7 hours, that means you're gonna get into 3, maybe 4 houses if you don't do the Terror Tram, and you don't watch any of the shows, and you skip eating dinner. Maybe you'll get to 4 houses. And I'm sorry, but the tickets are just too expensive to only get into 3 or 4 houses. So we started looking at buying the Express Pass, which is supposed to save you a ton of time. But then we noticed that for basically $100 more per person, we could take the R.I.P. tour, which includes valet parking, dinner and drinks with dessert, guaranteed 0 wait times for all of the haunted houses, express lines for most of the rides, plus the Purge stunt show and Terror Tram, as well as the Blumhouse experience. For us, it just made sense. We usually upgrade our parking anyway, which is like an additional $50 on top of the typical ticket, just because at the end of the night, when you're exhausted and your feet hurt, there's nothing worse than having to walk all the way to the general parking, figure out which structure you are in, go up who knows how many flights of stairs, and wander down who knows how many aisles to find your car. It just sucks. And on top of that, food at most theme parks is pretty expensive. At Universal Studios, it costs $16 just to be able to refill your souvenir cup if you already own the souvenir cup. So really the only difference between the price of the Express Pass and the price of the R.I.P. tour was whether I was going to pay that much up front as part of my ticket or pay it in smaller chunks over the course of the night. Either way, we were probably going to end up spending the same amount of money. I mean, we went to Super Nintendo World when it first opened and ended up spending $500 in the park on just food and merchandise. Since we were dead set on doing at least the Express Pass, the small difference between that and the cost of the R.I.P. tour seemed like a no-brainer. Plus, it allowed me to make a video about it. So let's jump in. When you first get to the park, you're going to want to turn left into the valet parking lane. Do not go into the general parking area if you want to use your complimentary valet parking. They'll take your keys and your car and they'll give you a ticket for validation. And then you just take a short stroll through City Walk until you get to the very long security line. And then finally, you'll get to the front of the park. After that, you just head to this sign on the right-hand side of the red carpet gate for VIP check-in. After that, they checked our credentials, validated our parking, and let us into the VIP lounge where they had bottled water and comfy chairs for us to wait until our scheduled tour time. Speaking of which, we had a weird amount of time to kill between when we got through the gates and our 8:30 tour time. It was strange. Unfortunately, the place is packed, and it takes a while to get to any of the rides. Not only that, but we knew dinner was happening at some point, and we didn't want to spoil our appetite. So we were kind of stuck in this limbo, not sure what to do with our time. We ended up back in the VIP lounge, admiring this Golden Globe they won for some unknown sitcom, and a real-life Oscar. But mostly we just sat on the balcony and watched the crowds enter the park. Before long, it was time for our tour. We had Silas as our guide, and he was really great.
For those of you who like the TV show, the house is based on the video game, so there are no Pedro Pascal lookalikes. We
started out with the Last of Us house, which was the reason we had decided to come to Halloween Horror Nights again this year, and it was okay. I think I should say right now that I'm not going to be putting any footage of inside the houses in this video. I just think it spoils it for people who want to go, and I want this to be sort of a spoiler-free review. This should be more about a recap of what doing the R.I.P. tour is like, and a discussion about whether or not it's worth the price, and kind of giving you a preview of what you can expect. If you want to see what the inside of the houses look like, there are a ton of YouTube channels out there spoiling that stuff left and right, so feel free to take a look at those. This one's going to be more about what you can expect as part of the tour itself. So the Last of Us house was done really well. The costumes and makeup and lighting were all great, but there's this weird thing that happens in Universal Studios horror houses. They never quite get the timing right. So either the groups they were letting in were too large, or the staff is having a hard time controlling the flow of the people going through the houses, because basically what would happen is we would hear something scary happening right ahead of us, And then we'd turn the corner and go into that room and there'd be nothing. No scare actors, nothing scary happening, just an empty set. Sometimes with blood and stuff on the walls. And we'd walk through this empty set like, wasn't there supposed to be something scary in here? And then go into the next area and again hear something scary happening and then get there and nothing. The worst offender of this was definitely the Evil Dead Rise house, which was toward the end of our night. We went through that entire thing without seeing any scare actors or anything of any sort, which basically meant we wandered through an empty apartment. It was a serious letdown. We had slightly better luck in the Exorcist house, which was done really well. And then we went through the updated Stranger Things house, which was better than years past, but had a complete lack of Demogorgons. Holidays in Hell was semi-lackluster, again just because we seemed to be late to every jump scare. But there were some cool things in there, like a giant evil turkey and this horrible looking Easter bunny thing, and that was pretty cool. I think this is the point where we went to the Monsters Unmasked house, which was the one that jump scared Ashlyn at pretty much every turn. It was the best house of the night. After that, our tour guide snuck us into Super Nintendo World, something he swore he was not supposed to do. Yet when we got into the Mario Kart ride, there was a Horror Night staff member waiting there to scan our VIP lanyard. So I'm fairly certain this is a perk that, while explicitly stated as not part of the R.I.P. tour, is probably encouraged just to make sure the guests are happy. And for the sake of not ruining the fun for everyone, we played along. We got to skip right to the front of the Mario Kart ride, and we had a blast. Next up was dinner at the Moulin Rouge, where a big buffet of food was set up, including salads and pastas and salmon and tri-tip, plus lots of cookies and cakes, and everything had a fun Halloween-themed pun for a name. The only part of the buffet that was a little underwhelming was the drink selections. They had Coke and Diet Coke and coffee and water, but no iced teas of any sort. Alcoholic drinks are also not included in the price of the tour, so we ended up paying a little extra for these drinks, which were the Black Crucible drink, and it gets darker the more you stir it. Afterwards, Silas met us outside and walked us to the Terror Tram, where we were able to skip the line entirely and board our own private tram that took us straight to the Exterminators themed part of the park, which starts by the Bates Motel. The Terror Tram theme was just okay. I can't imagine anyone actually being scared by rubber bug masks. There was, however, a special extra section of the Exterminators area just for R.I.P. guests. Next, we got a photo op with Norman Bates, and oddly enough, this was the one place where we ended up having to wait at all. And all because some rude lady tried to cut in front of everybody and then didn't even have her entire group with her, so everyone had to wait for her friend to show up for the photo. It was weird. Aw, aren't we cute? After that, we headed across the street over to Jupiter's Claim. This is a recreation of the actual set they used for that theme park area thing in the movie Nope, and it had a bunch of other characters from Jordan Peele's horror movies in there as well, so that was pretty neat. And then there was a special R.I.P. photo op where guests got to pose with someone dressed as the guy from Black Phone. This was odd because he set up like this whole bit about doing a magic trick and then nothing happened. But then he took photos with everyone and that was pretty cool. Next, Silas took us over to the Purge Stunt show, which is in the same theater the Waterworld show is normally in. And on the way, we got to see David Pumpkins. I'm David Pumpkins, man! The stunt show was neat, but through most of it, I wasn't really sure who we were supposed to be rooting for. By the end, it was clear, but man, those first few minutes were strange. At this point, our time with the tour had officially been over, but there were still 3 houses we hadn't gone into yet. So Silas took us over to Evil Dead Rises, which I had already spoken about, and then we went into the Chucky maze, which was really cool. There was like 25 to 50 animatronic Chuckies. They're all over the place. It was crazy. It was really good. Highly recommend. And then there was Monstrous, the Monsters of Latin America, which is also pretty awesome. Then Silas offered to take us into the Blumhouse experience to finish off the night, where we saw the Black Phone costume, the actual Five Nights at Freddy's costumes used in the upcoming movie, and one of the original dolls from the film Megan. None of which are movies I have seen yet. I'll get to them. Once in the theater, you basically just watch trailers for Blumhouse movies, and then some dancers dressed as Megan come out to dance. The Blumhouse experience was pretty cool just because you get to see a lot of the costumes and props and stuff from the movies. Like, the Five Nights at Freddy's costumes were legitimately cool to see up close and personal, but the dance thing is just not really my cup of tea, and I would have been pretty annoyed if I had to wait 180 minutes, like the people who don't have express passes were doing, just to go inside and watch some people dance for like 2 minutes. That would have been really, really annoying. So I'm glad our tour guide was so amazing and helped us skip that line, even though he didn't have to. Overall, I would say it was worth the money. Not only did we get valet parking for free, and not only did we not have to wait at all, but we also got to do all of the haunted houses, plus the Terror Tram, plus the Stunt show, and the Blumhouse experience. We got a pretty good dinner and skipped straight to the front of the Mario Kart ride. We also had the benefit of a planned itinerary. Last time we went to Halloween Horror Nights, we had a lot of fun, but we ended up wasting a ton of time. Not only do you spend like 2+ hours in line for every single haunted house, but once you're through the haunted house, you have to have like a discussion about which one you're going into next. What do you even have time for? Where is it? How do you get there? Where is the opening to the line? When you have a tour guide and a set itinerary, you don't have to worry about any of that stuff, which is a huge benefit. Plus, even the express passes had lines that were upwards of 45 minutes or more all night long, and the standard pass holders were waiting 180 minutes plus for every single house. Now, different days of the month cost different amounts of money, but if you get the chance, definitely check out the R.I.P. tour at Universal Studios Hollywood. One downside is we didn't really get to take advantage of the express pass for any of the rides that evening. The only ride we went on was Mario Kart, but that might not be true for you. If your tour starts earlier, you might have time at the end of the night to go on Jurassic World or any of the other rides at the park. Or if your tour starts later, like if you had 2 hours to kill at the start, you might be able to go on a ride before you begin your tour. But that was really the only complaint I had, other than maybe I would suggest adding some light snacks in the VIP lounge, because between when we arrived and when we ate, there was about a 2-hour gap, and we were pretty hungry by the time dinner finally came around. Also, adding some iced tea to the dinner area would be nice. But other than that, we had a blast. Speaking of fun, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and until next time, keep being awesome. A special unique gimmick of its own. A single rail, single file train that might be the only coaster in America that causes saddle sores. Am I the only one who finds the train on Wonder Woman just completely uncomfortable? It's just like this weird setup where like it hurts my knees and my hips and everything. It just feels really bad. Am I the only person?